Well, Guardians trade deadline have not exactly nailed it.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Boo. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today.
On today's episode of Locked On Guardians, not exactly nailing the lane they picked at the trading deadline. Just going to keep leaning into those jokes. Just done for the day. Alex Cobb is going to be out for an undisclosed amount of time with a nail injury. We'll get into that. And
you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, unfortunately I did. We'll talk about the ripple effects there, long-term and short-term for that injury. The Guardians also lost a member of the bullpen for an extended amount of time. And one of their top prospects, we have some good news to talk about finally. One of the top prospects, Chase DeLauter, is on his way to Columbus. We'll get into.
Oh, I have an update. He tripped on the way there and tore his entire lower body off from his upper body. He defenestrated himself, went right through a window. It's.
He shouldn't even go. They shouldn't even joke, Jeff. That's not cool. Shouldn't even joke. We'll get into the good news
are the Twins fans going to get mad at me like they got mad at you about Royce Lewis earlier this year, that we can't make jokes about things that happen?
No, we can't make jokes about anything. Otherwise, we come off as martyrs, Jeff. You know that. All that on today's show. So stick around to the end. We'll have good news to talk about with the Chase DeLauter promotion. And
he's exciting, no matter, even with the concerns. And the concern is just health. Let's just put it that way. But we're gonna have a good discussion.
It's not performance.
No, we're going to get into it. We're going to get in depth. So you want to stick around for that third segment. We're hoping we'll see some more promotions. We were talking about AA yesterday. There's a lot of fun guys in AA. If you can go down, catch a game in Akron, you should. Or Lake County, honestly. I mean, it's loaded. This is one of the, we got to get into the
Lake County today.
Yeah.
Too.
We got to talk about the MLB.com. We talked about it yesterday and we didn't get to it. The ranking them with the fourth best minors in baseball, right?
Probably won't have time today, honestly.
Yeah. But, thank you for joining us. For those who do not know me, I am Jeff Ellis, one of your two co-hosts here of Locked On Guardians, one of the original hosts on the MLB side of things for Locked On. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scouting 24/7, as well as your 60th favorite blogger at every Cleveland sports blog that has or will exist.
What was number 10 yesterday? Did you reveal that to us? What was number 10?
What was number 10? I've already forgotten why I picked number 10.
Oh, come on.
So I didn't write it down.
You can't pick the number. Boo. You're booing me. I'm booing you.
I think it might have been was someone on a 10-day disabled list or something like that? I can't even remember. I forgot it.
You lost it. I'm Justin Lauda, the other host of this podcast. I've been at so many places I've written about. Editor-in-chief at Guardians Baseball Insider. Contributor to the News Herald and the Morning Journal, and Prospects Live, and here where we're talking about Alex Cobb. So he's officially on the injured list with a split fingernail. It sounds like they had to remove half the fingernail essentially because of the way it was split. And I don't know. I already pretend to know about baseball, although
I don't know about
apparently I pretend too well about that. I'm not going to pretend to be a medical expert here and say that, but everything I was texting people and trying to look stuff up, and then you go down bad paths on WebMD.
WebMD is like the worst thing ever. Like, no, don't get help from the internet.
No, all of a sudden you've got a third 20 or 18th century disease.
House back in the day, it's like everyone's got lupus or something like that. Lupus. It's always lupus. He's got lupus of the fingernail.
Cholera or dysentery or something. I don't know. But I think I
was literally reading about Prince Edward the Black Prince today and his death from dysentery.
So it looks like we don't really have any. There's really at this point until the Guardians update things on Tuesday in New York what Cobb's timetable is. It's definitely going to be more than one start. I think what it depends on for him is his pain threshold, what he can pitch through, because without a nail and gripping a baseball and throwing a splitter is almost darn near impossible. So I think in general, the rest of the season for him, no matter if he comes back or when he comes back, it's going to be about pain tolerance. I don't think that fingernail is going to be fully healed the rest of at least for another month. So I think for him, it's going to be when he comes back, what his pain tolerance is. And A, you're hoping he can pitch through some pain. B, you're hoping he can do so effectively. And that's just, it's a blow because, we talked Sunday or Monday about how it felt like finally this rotation was in a spot where things felt stabilized. And now you're back to one spot that's really up in the air. The offense is struggling. The bullpen's still great. They were great in Baltimore. But, now you got one spot in the rotation things are really up in the air on, and you're really hoping for some life from this offense. And all of a sudden, things get a little dark as far as the division's concerned.
I don't know. Like, here's my, rose-colored glasses of the whole thing. It's like, I still kind of sit back and go, with the way Boyd's pitched and some of the things, it's like this rotation is still in better shape than it's been at any point this year. Cantillo hasn't looked terrible when he's been up. I have more confidence now than I have, and maybe that's just foolish overconfidence, and maybe I have some hubris here, and it's going to come back to bite me in the tuchus. But like, I still feel better about the rotation. Yeah, I mean, it stinks. Like, the whole Cobb situation is awful, but at the same time, and I'm going to just keep reiterating a point, which is there was not a lot of pitching available at the deadline, and what did win was pretty expensive. And yeah, I mean, this is, if you want to give a referendum on them, it's not about the deadline. It's probably giving up on Quantrell so you could then acquire Barlow, because that's essentially what they did, is they moved that money. It's like they probably should have. I mean, who knows? Like, maybe Quantrell wouldn't have worked here because it took going to Colorado to focus on his splitter. But like, maybe that's the referendum if you want to get into it. But pitching wise, it's bad luck. And again, this guy is, 37-year-old. Like, I'm in my 40s. Once you hit past 35, the warranty's up and things break easier. But this is a freak injury. Like that, I think we can all agree on that. It's unfortunate, but it's just a freak injury. And like I said, I wish I had something better I could say or be more confident, but it's just one of those situations right now where I just kind of look at all of it, and I still feel better about this rotation because Boyd actually showed some signs of life, and a lot of this rotation just has not shown signs of life.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't really gotten a whole lot of consistency out of Gavin Williams, and part of that is because he's still a young starter. Part of that is he's missed most of the season, so it's very hard. But unfortunately, and it's not really, I don't know. Gavin's was also kind of a freak injury as well because it was a weird way he threw a weighted ball. So I guess that's also a freak injury. Yeah, I mean, if Cobb would have come back and they would have said, well, his hip's hurting again or his shoulder's hurting because he had some shoulder problems early in the rehab this past year too. You could look at the Guardians and say, well, you guys knew about this and you traded for him. You did nothing else, and it's on you. I still would have liked Cobb to have been an also addition to something else. And I agree that the price at the deadline, because I know a lot of people are going to focus on, they should have done more. And I really loved what Boyd did the first start, but the same thing we're saying about Gavin Williams. And I'm not saying Boyd has anything close to what Gavin Williams gives you talent-wise. Obviously, that's a given. But like, Gavin has spent the whole year being inconsistent from when he's been back. I know he was really good in Minnesota. I don't know if you can necessarily count on consistency from him at any point this year because of the time missed, because of his inexperience as a major league starter. If
he had more consistency, they win game one. And like, how much better do you feel if it's just one win instead of a sweep? Like, it's 1,000 times better. Like, it's such a different weird world.
They still only scored 3 runs in that game. 3 runs is not going to beat a lot of good teams anyway.
No,
so it doesn't necessarily matter. He made the bad pitch. I know the 3-run homer happened in the first inning. If he gets out of that first inning, maybe they win 3-2, and maybe it's not as bad. But you still scored 4 runs all weekend. So on the whole, that's not a good weekend.
No,
and
that's
the
fair.
offense has been slumping for a while. So it's not like that 3-game series was like the offense just went to the tank. Like, the offense has been very shaky since before the All-Star break. I just would have liked, I don't know. I liked what we saw from Boyd against the Cubs, but it's one start. If you can't get consistency from Gavin Williams, I don't know what you can really guarantee from Matt Boyd. I agree that, like, even with him taking over one of those spots, and now you have one spot that's back in disarray, for at least the short term, for a little bit of short term. It's still, I guess, essentially better than what it was because there really wasn't any room for it to go down further. I will say the one thing they could have done at the deadline, this is 2020 hindsight, because Zach Eflin was kind of struggling before the deadline. He has been really good for the Orioles. He's been about it. He's been about the best pitcher that has been moved at the deadline. The Orioles didn't give up much for him, and I know part of that was because the Orioles took on a lot of the money he was owed.
$18 million.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's the only thing I think you could have reasoned with is they didn't give up much, or you could have given up more and taken on less money because
I don't think they had any interest. I think Tampa was very clearly they
traded in division. I don't know. Yeah,
I think their whole point was to get out from the money. It was less about the return. I don't think you could have given up more to get Tampa to take less. Unfortunately,
I could see that. Also, I would have taken on the money and given up less because I think Eflin was a little more reliable, and Cobb could have been okay. It's Cobb or Boyd, and we'll see what happens. But it is what it is. It's done now, and hopefully they can successfully reattach Alex Cobb's fingernail, or he can regrow a new one. I don't know. Do they have? There's medicine for those kind of things, right? They can do that.
They got to back the tank, right? And just dunk him in that.
Oh, there you go. I would work. I think at 37 you need one. I'm 35 and I could honestly use one. I could honestly use a break here too, Jeff. We'll talk about who is going to stand in for Alex Cobb in the short term and the long term, how they should handle that, and we'll also get into that Chase DeLauter promotion and kind of play a what if game on that as well. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about FanDuel on the show. It is America's #1 sports book for a reason, and they have something a little different for you now. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday tickets from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with your YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon game out of market. All you need is Google account and a form of payment. You can cancel anytime. I had this last year. I split it with some friends. Basically, I keep up my fantasy team. I don't really watch a single NFL team anymore, but I like to watch my fantasy players. That's a lot of fun. I know people are saying you should just watch Red Zone. I don't know. Anyway, YouTube TV is a great spot for this, and it's all brought to you by FanDuel and this great deal as well. Just checking out FanDuel as well. We were looking at some of the lines. The over-under on the Guardians win total the rest of the year is 92.5, so they'd have to go 21-19 the rest of the way to do that. I feel like they can hit 93 wins to get over that at this point. It's plus 110. And then they are still the favorites to win the division. And then tomorrow are the Yankees against Tuesday with Matt Boyd going. The Yankees are favored, and the over-under is 8.5. I'm taking the over. The Yankees have a good lineup. It's Matt Boyd's second start coming back from Tommy John. And it's Yankee Stadium where the ball go far. No matter, all you got to do, the ball doesn't have to go far to go over the fence. It just goes over the fence because you don't have to hit it far. So I'd probably take the over there, and I'll be wrong because I don't know anything about baseball. What I do know is you should go to FanDuel.com/lockdown to download America's #1 sportsbook. You should also listen to our pal Sully on Lockdown MLB. Maybe he'll talk about Alex Cobb's injury over there because Sully is a West Coast guy, and Cobb was pitching on the West Coast recently. And any other storylines going on there. Zach Eflin dominating for the Orioles and what could have been, all that kind of stuff is over on Lockdown MLB after you're finished listening to Lockdown Guardians. Check out our pal Sully, part of the Lockdown Podcast Network. Your team every day. We don't know the Guardians starter every day this week, Jeff. What we do know is Matt Boyd goes today, Tuesday. Gavin Williams goes Thursday. With the off day, Cleveland could have pitched Gavin Williams on Wednesday, and they could have gone to Tanner on Thursday. That is not the plan. So it's a big series in New York, and you can look at this two ways. One way is a really long-term outlook, and one term is the short-term outlook. You could have moved up Gavin on normal rest for Wednesday. You could have moved up Tanner on normal wet rest. Jeez, what a great day I'm having. On Thursday against Garrett Cole. And you could have said this is a series we need to win because we're up against a team that is directly competing with us for one of the top spots in the AL playoffs. And we're struggling right now. We need wins. Or you could look at it as, let's give everybody the extra day of rest, Gavin and Tanner. It's a long season. We need these guys fresh and healthy. And you maybe don't pitch Tanner against the Yankees because you're hopeful they're a future playoff opponent. And if they don't get a look at him in the season, you save some sort of surprise. There's really no surprises, but I guess you save some sort of live look against him there. So Wednesday it lines up to be Logan Allen or Joey Cantillo. So Allen pitched on Friday, so he is on normal rest for Wednesday. Cantillo pitched on Thursday, so he could be an option as well, but that looks to be the play right now because Gavin is scheduled to go Thursday, which means Tanner goes Friday at home against the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the whole idea, too, on some degree of lining up your best chances of success in some ways. Like, having Tanner go against the Rangers is more likely to lead to a win than Tanner against the Yankees, which with every win is equally valuable at this time of year. Not a knock on Tanner, more just Yankees versus Rangers and where the Rangers have been in terms of their play. I would be curious to see, if there's any, adaptations, if they do decide to, who's going to be the option, who's going to be the sacrificial lamb. It's very clear that some, roster maneuvering is inbound. I think at this point that they need to figure a few things out. And I think, calling up Anthony Ghost didn't exactly inspire much confidence in me. I mean, he's never been good at the major league level. If you're just being perfectly honest, everyone loves him. Great teammate, easy to cut. Not the guy you want. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is only up until they need a starter,
which is Wednesday.
Yeah. So like he is.
Anthony Goes has to feel good. He came up last week when Henches went on the IL for the first time, or the most recent time anyway. And then the next day he was let go, and now he is going to go to New York. He's going to pitch maybe on Tuesday. Hopefully, if he doesn't pitch Tuesday, that means things went well, I think. But if he does pitch Tuesday, he won't be in the bullpen Wednesday, and it'll be Logan Allen or Joey Cantillo. And sorry, Ghost. I don't know what a weird spot for him, unfortunately, with trying to make a comeback. But yeah, I mean they definitely need another lefty out there. I mean, not having Sam Henches really hurts this bullpen, and he was on the 60-day IL. That brings back Ghost to the 40-man roster. At least for the temporary short term, probably setting sail on Sam Henches coming back this season. Technically, he still could return by calendar definition. Maybe they'll get lucky and rest will heal the shoulder inflammation. But you're also with both Henches and Cobb, actually, depending on how long Cobb is out and how long Henches is out, you also run into the risk of not having rehab games to get into because the last games in AAA for the year, I believe, I want to say are September 22nd is the last game. September 22nd. So Henches definitely can't return before then. And I think at that point, there's a week left. Well, he's been on the IL for a few weeks now, so maybe they can backdate it. Maybe he can. But he's got to come back, be healthy, and pitch in rehab and feel good. And same with Cobb. So, like, you also run into that problem, too, where you run out of time to go on a rehab assignment, which, unless you're Jose Ramirez and you come back off the IL and you hit a grand slam at 3-run homer against the White Sox and then call it a year like you did in 2019.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare. So it's going to be tight, and this is going to be a tough race the rest of the way. I mean, we were talking off air, like the Twins have their lineup to fall back on. Their rotation's not exactly in the greatest spot either. And the Guardians bullpen is also much better than theirs. And they have a great lineup to fall back on. And the Guardians have at least one rotation spot up in the air, and we don't really know you don't know what to expect from Boyd. And some days you don't know what to expect from Gavin. And the lineup is as uncertain from day to day, which maybe there's some moves coming on Tuesday because Chase DeLauter is going to AAA. Does that mean they're finally going to call somebody up from AAA? Is it Manzardo? Is it Valera? Be sure good to have some left-handed power in this lineup. Everybody has been screaming about a right-handed power bat since
since before I moved out here.
College. I was still in college, yeah.
I mean, I made a mock joke Twitter account called Right-Handed Bat once that I got bored with after a week. And that was when I still lived in Ohio.
And now it's like they need a left-handed power bat, literally, which we've been saying this team really needs a left-hander, and they prefer a left-hander. And you're in Yankee Stadium, so is it Valera? Is it Manzardo? I don't know. It feels like it's made sense to a lot of people over the last 2 weeks. So for some reason that's not happening. So it's either everyone is overthinking it or there's just more going on than we really know. Again, they're not letting on to these things. What does that really mean? They haven't turned to these guys. I was saying on my other podcast on Monday that on Monday that, I said over the offseason I thought they were going to trade Valera, and they didn't.
I just didn't get any trade value. That was my.
I agree with that too. But now it's if you don't give him a chance now, then you go into the offseason and he has no options left. It's you either come into spring training and you're in Will Benson territory where he's got to make the team or you trade him.
Well, he's your Florio. He's the same as Florio. It's the exact same situation as Florio with the Yankees.
You don't want to trade him at that point because at one time he was one of your top prospects and you're selling him for pennies on the dollar, or
unfortunately
you're forced to give him a shot. It's not a good situation.
I think when you don't play a dude, that just speaks volumes. And unfortunately for Valera, it's listen, he was very overhyped. People don't necessarily want to hear that, but it's when he was in, low baseball, I had people telling me he had the best swing in the system. He had a plus hit tool, and you could look at the numbers and know that wasn't true. Or that, he could probably play center field. It's no, he's a corner outfit. He was a victim of the hype. He's still a good prospect. If they call him up tomorrow, I'm going to be excited for that. I still think he's power over hit. He's going to be probably a little bit infuriating, just with some swing decision stuff. But I still like the overall profile. I think there's a potential starter, but I also think if they don't call him, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know whose playing time he takes at the major league level. That's the question you have to ask yourself: is whose playing time he takes. There's room to move down Freeman.
Less for Schneeman, I would think.
Yeah, Schneeman as well, because then you have, I guess, Freeman covers that extra infield spot at that point. But does the same go for Manzardo? If you don't bring him up tomorrow too, is it the same for Manzardo? Because it feels like he should have been up here a while ago.
I just think
he's not. And
Noel, yes, he's playing outfield, but he's more of a first baseman. And they have Fry and Naylor at the same thing. They can't carry 3 first basemen at once.
Well, Fry is essentially a DH
right now, and that's the problem.
Said over and over. Yeah.
So it's they're not going to bring him up unless they DL or Fry, and I don't think it's going to happen. So I honestly, I expect if they call someone up, it's Valera. I'd be shocked if it's. Unless they put Fry in the DL, I'd be shocked if it's Manzardo right now.
Yeah, I think they got to find a way. And with Chase DeLauter going to AAA, it seems like there should be a move coming. Speaking of aesthetics, everyone said George Valera had a pretty swing, and truly it hasn't worked out. But Chase DeLauter, nobody who knows anything about baseball, I should say, at least I've heard, has said he has a pretty swing.
Ugliest swing in this system.
His ugly swing is working. He's going to AAA. We're going to talk about that next and the ripple effects of Chase DeLauter going to AAA in just a second. You're not going to want to miss this.
But first, we are going to talk about our good friends over at FanDuel. And right now, they're giving stuff away left and right. They are making it so you can get easier wins. Caleb Williams is being given 1 passing yard on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, 1. As long as he gets more than 1 yard, you win. It's an automatic win every football weekend. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends, as what Green Day would say. I think Tyreek Hill will get more than 90.5 yards in week 1, or Aaron Jones run for more than 66.5 yards. Cook up hot takes with your friends with real money this football season, and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. It is the #1 daily fantasy sports with over 5 million active users. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat predictions and watch the winnings roll in 2 to 6 player stat. And they're giving you 1 for free. Just got to nail down the other one. And you could now win up to 100 times your money. So download the app or go to the website for PrizePicks today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks.com for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game.
Run your radio or your car radio or your computer to SiriusXM to listen to all the action from the Yankees and Guardians at Yankee Stadium this week with Monday's birthday boy Tom Hamilton on the call, search Guardians on your Sirius XM app to hear that one. I don't know. You know what? Will Tom Hamilton be talking about Chase DeLauter sometime this year?
No. This year, no.
No? Okay.
I mean, he's just...
I had some people ask me on Twitter about that, and I have to say, there's two ways to look at this, I think. If he comes up, that means he's healthy. That means he's crushing the ball in AAA.
I don't think there's enough time.
You know what? I would agree with you, but here's the thing. He's played 36 AA games in his career. He hasn't even played 100 minor league games yet, and he's already gone to AAA.
Because
if
he's not been
was healthy, right. But we keep saying it's not about the performance; it's about the health. Yeah. And he is finally right now. He's healthy, and he's hitting. And I would have told you last week. I would have told you yesterday, Jeff, if I didn't know about this, that Chase DeLauter probably doesn't go to AAA this year because he's got 36 career games at AA. So I didn't think he'd skip to AAA that quickly, but he did. But the other side of it is if Chase DeLauter's in the majors, that means things in front of him fell apart very badly. And that's the scary part. Because if things fall apart that badly offensively, that means the Guardians have fallen quite a bit of ways in terms of the standings. Even if the Guardians don't win the division, and I think it's getting close to a coin flip almost, they're still going to win a playoff spot because they would have quite a bit of lead on the Red Sox for that last wild card spot. So they would have to really free fall this last 6 weeks to fall to a playoff spot. Is there an offensive player that is going to lose his footing so much in the majors, and Chase DeLauter has to also be in AAA and hitting the way? I mean, he has home runs in 3 straight games. He had a home run off Jackson Jobe. He had a walk off Jackson Jobe, and it's looked pretty good recently.
He's not getting called up, full stop. He still can't hit lefties. He's still underdeveloped because of the health. The swing is still the worst looking swing in the minors. I do have concerns with that swing. But we just said
they need left-handed power. They need a left-handed outfielder.
I don't know if he's going to hit for power as he faces good pitching. This is going to be really interesting in AAA because the swing is so cut off that it does not look like it should naturally generate. So, and here we go.
George Valera's swing looked like it should have worked, and it didn't.
No, I know,
I'm
but
just saying.
Yeah, a pretty swing doesn't always mean success, but a super ugly swing always means failure. It's just about the way it seems to be. Guys who have cut off swings and arm bars, there's a reason why when you see an arm bar, you immediately drop 3 rounds of a draft grade on a guy, no matter their production, because the next guy who's going to be highly productive with an arm bar will be the first. It's the same, calculus that gets us in trouble when we talk about Noel. But, I think DeLauter can be successful. I think he can be an okay player. I think he can be a good player. Right now he needs reps. The fact is, he can't hit lefties. He can't, you're worried about I think this is a natural call up to maybe so you can get him closer for next year. But I don't see a pathway for him.
Let's say the final 2 weeks of the season, final 3 weeks of the season. I don't know.
But then you got to mess around with I know the 40-man isn't as bad as it needs to be, but this is a team that doesn't call a guy up for the last. I know, but they don't call a guy up for 2 weeks at the end of the season, start his service time clock, and mess with their 40-man roster. That's not how they operate.
Do you want to see George Valera in September, or do you want to see Chase DeLauter in September?
I would personally, and I know that people say I'm crazy, I'd rather see Valera because I do think there's
every bit of data, Jeff, that you and I trust in terms of, and it's not just data. I know people are going to say, watch the games. We watch the games. We've watched the players. We know what they look like. But there's also a subset of data that tells you whether or not things are going to work out. It's the same thing we say about Noel and why statistically players with that data set don't work out. All the data, Jeff, that you and I normally look to for confirmation or to say, okay, what's wrong here? Why won't this work? All the data.
Not true.
On Chase DeLauter. No, most of it's true. I know you're going to say the splits. I know you're going to say the splits.
No, if you're going to say are better for him than Valera, the problem is you're comparing different grade. If you look at them at AA, Valera was a better performer actually at AA. when he was a younger performer at that level, because he's only, for as long as he's been here, Valera is less than a year older than Valera, or just slightly more than a year. Like they're they're close. And Valera's double-A performance was actually quite
strikes
good.
out less. He walks more. He swings and misses less.
Not at double-A. Valera walked more than him at the double-A level.
What was Valera's walk rate at double-A?
13.5%.
All right. Well, we're splitting hairs by 3% here. Come on, really? I'm not.
Had a higher slugging percentage, had a higher batting average, was younger, had a higher on base. He was better than DeLauter across the board as a younger player at that same level.
Better fly. I mean, gets the ball in the air, pull side, all that stuff.
I mean, like I said, I think DeLauter is a good player, has a chance to be a great player. He's the 5th ranked player in my system, but in my prospect list. But Valera is the guy you have to see now, or you don't get an opportunity. And when he was younger at that level, he performed at a higher level.
I mean, we've heard people say that in this system, and I wonder if this is still true. It must still be true because he got called back up. Is that people in this organization, there were people that were much bigger fans of Will Brennan and his potential over George Valera. And Brennan's still here.
Potential. I think it was like baseline level. And I think the problem is that what they assume that he had that he was. Valera has a chance to be a 60 with a chance to 30 to 60. I think they thought that Brennan was going to be a 50. Like, I think they thought Brennan was a solid 50. But unfortunately he's been a 40, and that's.
People still preferred Brennan to Valera, though. That's the point.
And, but I think it was because of safety.
It doesn't matter because at this point Valera could have been called up. They've had opportunities to call him up.
Yeah.
Brennan went back down after he struggled after the ribcage injury. And they could have said, you know what, Valera's healthy. He's doing pretty decent. We can call him up. We can leave Brennan down because Brennan has been given a multitude of chances. And and to be fair, he was great in June before the injury. He's also been the only hitter over the last week that's actually done anything besides, Josh Naylor's home run. I know Jose hit a home run in Milwaukee too, but they could have easily just said, no, we'll recall Valera, and they didn't do that. So I wonder if there's a point where they're
center field. He's getting a lot of time in center field, and they wanted
right because Valera is not a center fielder.
No, yeah,
neither is Chase DeLauter. I will say that's the one thing that they've played Chase DeLauter in center a little bit. I don't believe there is a future for him in center field, but I do believe. I don't know. I'm really fascinated by this in general because it's fun. It sucks, but it's fun to think about how good how things could have played out this year. For what it's worth, I don't necessarily believe he will be called up this year. I'm just, playing devil's advocate a little bit there. But it's fascinating to me that the Guardians, who typically do not promote anybody this quickly, I know he's been here since last year, and I know it's been it's been a while.
Gosh, this is his 3rd year in the system, right?
Yeah, but for him to be in AAA with less than 100 games played in the minors, still says a lot because they just don't do that.
Because he's been hurt. Well, they didn't get anything.
Normally they would rely on experience.
Like how Bazana is right now in high A, you couldn't do it with DeLauter because he was hurt. And then last year he only got in how many games because he was hurt? He got in 42 games last year, 48 games. He's up to 30 games this year. This is a player who in college played as many games over 3 years as most guys play in 1 year. The health is a big issue, and he earned the promotion through his production. I don't want, I want to say that, but there is DeLauter and Valera have some similarities in their profile. Wouldn't one say, with some of the contact stuff and some of the, their walk and K rates are similar, like I said, at the double A level.
I think DeLauter makes more contact. I think there are less holes in DeLauter's swing.
I think that is fair. I think Valera is probably more passive overall than DeLauter. I think DeLauter isn't passive. I think
Valera is more passive for sure. That's what
I think Valera has
passive.
I don't think DeLauter is passive. I think he does a better job of buying the zone. I think that's why he's the 5th rated prospect for me, and Valera is 28th. But I just I don't know. I also maybe I'm having too many Will Benson, Nolan Jones flashbacks. And again, I talk about not letting that rule you, but it's I at least want to see what Valera can do. The same way they tried Florial and it didn't work. I don't fault the logic there. I don't fault seeing what someone can do, and I also don't want to force rush DeLauter. There's still a lot of things going on in his game that need ironed out. And like, let's also be honest, AAA is a churn right now. This is not the day. Like, I know some team. It's interesting because some teams skip AAA because they don't want that advanced data to get into other people's hands. Cleveland doesn't do that, which is normally they hug data, but they do let that happen here. But we've seen a lot of guys hit AAA, and it is a struggle. So I also don't necessarily think this means that like he's fast tracked for this year. Now, does this mean
I'm not saying that. I'm saying
year, absolutely we can revisit.
I think it's interesting that he is in AAA at this point with less than 100 career games in the minors, because typically Cleveland would look at his track record and say, well, you got to spend more time at AA. You got to get more reps at AA. And instead, they've chosen to send the AAA. They think he's ready, which is, what do you call that? It's a difference. It's very different from how they normally operate. Like, if you would have told me, I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see they promoted to AAA, because normally they operate in a way that they would have left him at AA the rest of the year because of the time he has missed. But instead, they felt like he was ready to AAA. And there are some people who are saying, well, he could spend. And I'm going to go back and say I don't believe he'll be called up this year. I don't think that's the right move. I'm just playing devil's advocate. But I don't think there's a lot of people who feel like, oh, he can just rush to AAA and be in the majors this year. And I don't think that's the case, because we've seen the AAA is a very hard adjustment period for a lot of guys, because you're facing it's a new baseball. I don't understand why Major League Baseball does this, but it's a new baseball, AAA. I don't know if that necessarily affects DeLauter because he's not throwing it, so maybe it's different for him. But you've got a lot of pitchers there.
Slicker.
Yeah, so I don't know. And there are still pitching prospects there. Like this week alone, Columbus plays Indianapolis, so he'll see Thomas Harrington, he'll see Bubba Chandler. Those are great prospects. Next week, he'll see AJ Smith-Shawver. He'll see Dylan Dodd. He'll see Hurston Waldrep with Gwinnett. So, like, there are still prospects to be faced there. And there are still guys who have gotten out to the major league level he'll face as well. And there's value in that. And AAA can be a hard adjustment. So, I don't think there's any guarantee for sure that he can rush through. I'm just surprised that they deviated a little bit from what they normally do, where I would have expected them to say, he's going to finish the year at AA because he's missed a lot of time. And instead, with only 90 career minor league games and half of that in rehabbing in the complex league, he gets the AAA. And it makes you wonder.
But this is also what they do. Like, because he came up early last year, they bump guys up late. Even though he missed time, this is more he played 3 games at Akron last year. I know, but this is their progression. If they call a guy up at the end of last year, they typically then move him up at the end of the next year. This is the typical progression for a guy.
That was the last weekend though last year. It's not the same thing.
But they still do that though. Like a guy who got up at the end of AA, typically before the end of the year in AAA, they will try to move up. It is a typical progression in those regards for those guys, even if it's a short one.
Because he has 36 games at AA.
I know it's not
normally move guys that quickly.
It's not typical for his health, but they're basically treating him like there was no health issue. They're having him move.
Right, I agree.
Is what I'm trying to say. I guess I'm phrasing it poorly. That's my fault. But like they're having him move like there was no health injury.
Right. Yeah. No, they are. Which could I think that's the right call. Honestly, at this point, it is the right call. I'm shocked. I'm pleasantly surprised they did it that way. It just makes me think like what could have been, because there was no chance he was going to make the team out of spring training. We knew that. People should have realized that from the beginning. But he had the great spring training. If he had been healthy all year, I think he would have been up this year if he'd been healthy all year.
I think, what we need to look at in terms of comparisons is not looking maybe necessarily other hitters, but I know we're running out of time here, but looking at the Williams and the Bibees, like how they have handled the high end prospects, right? Not necessarily how they handle all prospects, but how they handle kind of the more special ones.
They were forced into that due to injury.
They were forced,
this one wouldn't have been the case.
No, but they were also moved up quickly. Those guys, those two arms move much quicker than Messick and Peterson have, right? The same way. Like those guys have moved much quicker.
Oh, well, they had to because they were forced, but yeah. Real quickly too, we're running out of time again, but we're gauging some interest. Again, September 12th, the Captains are playing their playoff game. I don't know whether or not Travis Pisano will be there. All of a sudden he's playing well, and we'll have to have a conversation tomorrow about how much the Guardians do or do not value playoff experience in the minors. History says they don't. I'll tell you why tomorrow, so stick around for that. But we're gauging some interest. If you would like to do a semi-lockdown Guardians meetup at the playoff game, September 12th in Lake County, I will be there for sure no matter what. We'll decide how to best get a hold of Jeff in terms of recording a podcast live there for the playoff game. I'll be there. I'll record something, whether one way or the other.
We've had at least 3 people in the comments already chime in that they want to.
Yeah, so let us know on the comments or on Twitter if you're going to buy a ticket to the playoff game on September 12th in Lake County. I will be there. The more interest we get, we can make it an official thing. If not, I can just hang out and meet up with some people. But let us know if you're going to buy a ticket. We're talking to the captains about some possibilities. So we'd like to make it a formal thing. That depends on your guys' interest. So let us know. September 12th, Captain's Home playoff game. It should be fun. I'll be there. Let us know if you're going to be there. And the more people we get, we'll try to finalize some things. We'll talk about the Guardians and Yankees on Tuesday or Wednesday. Oh boy. System ranks, more on the Guardians minor leagues, Rule 5 thoughts, timber call-ups, all coming up this week on Locked On Guardians.
And as always, thank you for joining us. Thank you to all of our everydayers, and a special thank you to everyone for the kind words about yesterday's show. Make sure you're always tuning in, and go Guardians.